Hello, everyone. Welcome to the lunchtime hour with now on location myself and Jose back from location and with a nice clean shave as well.
Yeah, finally, right? I finally got the haircut. It was about a month since I lost all my barber, but here's the real me, guys. This is the real me.
Right on time for AMD's earnings report as well.
Yeah, Neil. I mean, today it feels like forever since we just talked, but I mean, we talked Thursday, right? So it's been pretty. It hasn't been that long. In the market, everything seems long. We just got hit with the tariff news on Sunday. Then Monday, everything was okay. Now Tuesday, what's going to happen today? So it's going to be pretty. I think for the semiconductor space, for the AI space, it's going to be not boring few months, maybe even longer.
Yeah, no, I agree. On Sunday, everybody was freaking out. Oh, futures look red, tariffs this, tariffs that. I did a specific video about tariffs and saying that this is purely a bargaining chip. This is just so people come to the table and then they'll work things out. It didn't even reach the date that the tariffs would be implemented because that would only happen on Tuesday. It didn't even reach Tuesday, and we're back to normal right now. So it's interesting. I'll pull up the semiconductor situation right now so everybody can follow along.
And just a quick thing, right, Greg mentioned so much going on. Just last week we had the whole DeepSeek drama, right? And this last weekend we had the tariffs. I wonder what this weekend's going to be all about.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, imagine if DeepSeek and the tariffs came out on the same day. Ooh, that would be something.
And yeah, just quick shout out to people all over the chat. I see Rojas, Zero, Chan, Cheyenne, and the Greg. So thank you from everybody here on my side. I know, Neil, you have a lot of people on your side as well. Pretty excited for this AMD preview, and kind of just share my overall thoughts of what to expect on earnings tonight. We also have some other good players, right? We have Google reporting. I think those are the only two I'm focusing on, Google and AMD. Any other ones you're looking at?
There is, well, of course, AMD and Google. Google specifically for me is a big one. With AMD, I have half a finger on that buy button for tonight for an earnings play, half a finger. But I see that AMD today is already, it's up 2.5%. It's maybe a good sign. but we'll see. And then I believe, yeah, there is Snapchat, which, I mean, I predict Snapchat goes up by double digits because they will report, I think, profits and free cash flow and stuff like that, and plus the stock is beaten already. Uh, it's at $11 or something like that. And then there is also Enphase, I think, today, maybe tomorrow. I can't remember. But yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting, especially after PayPal, before the market opens. For those interested, you can go watch the PayPal video after we're done here. But yeah, the big ones is,
Yeah,
of course, AMD.
don't you dare leave now. You have to wait till after we finish to go watch that PayPal video on Neil's channel.
Exactly, PayPal for now.
But yeah, it does seem like I'm looking here. Enphase is today, Neil. Chipotle is also today. I don't follow either of those, but let me just say, lately I've been getting Chipotle a lot more often throughout the week. So uh, it's usually me, my wife, and Neil, my less than 2-year-old son loves Chipotle. Like he gets his own kids meal. He devours that thing. So I think we're making some definitely going to be a nice value for the bottom line numbers for Chipotle over there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you have that insider information, that could definitely help. And maybe they can sponsor the streams in the future. Who knows?
Uh, so Neil, we got some questions coming in. Maybe we can start tackling now. Um, So just one from Shay asking, when is AMD reporting? AMD is reporting today after the market closes. They usually share their press release around 4:15, a little bit later than some of the other players, and then the earnings call is at around 5 o'clock. So pretty interesting. We did get some, Neil. I think we got some pretty maybe early indications, so we can expect from Intel last week. The one thing that really caught my attention is Intel mentioned that they did see an increase in kind of like the client market, their CPU products, because some of the customers, or which are usually like their the guys who finish the laptops or the PC builds, they're buying in anticipation of tariffs. So that kind of might have pushed some buying pressure for this past quarter, but they did kind of give us a warning, Neil, that for the upcoming quarter, it's just being pushed up. The cycle is still pretty much weak. So maybe this current quarter, which we're in right now, might not be as strong. So I want to see if AMD gives us the same guidance, or if they tell us, yes, there was buying pressure that we saw at the beginning and we don't see it down. Because even though they both play in the same space, Neil, there are times when they give us both different views of the market. So as a shareholder, maybe I'm rooting a little bit more for more bullish sentiment from AMD than Intel.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was about to say the same. There is definitely a pull forward, but yeah, with I mean, there are some differences with AMD's key points for the reports. I think, as you know, the main points are definitely going to be data center figures and that AI revenue. We know that the AI revenue for 2025, if they said it's going to exceed $5 billion, it's going to be more than $5 billion, quite comfortably, I think. And then and then all eyes on whether or not they could maybe double that in 2025. I think, as we said in past streams, starting with a super low bar is not going to be welcomed this time. So yeah, I don't know. What do you think? What do you expect? 8, 9, or $10 billion? Maybe
On
more.
you know, for their full year, I wonder if they're even gonna give us one, Neil. I'm actually pretty hesitant to see if they're gonna even give us one. If they do, I think it's gonna be closer to the $8 billion, maybe even under that. The reason being is Lisa Su is very conservative in the number she gives. I think she would rather start off with a low base number, and then very similar to how we saw this past year, Neil, is every quarter increment it a bit. And I think that's going to be the same place she's going to go with us this quarter. I think the market is expecting more on the negative side, maybe a little bit below that $8 billion or near there. But if that's the case, I think that's the worst case scenario, and we will see improvements throughout the quarter. I also am curious to see a lot of questions about DeepSeek. Um, I think AMD might be the best player before Nvidia to kind of. I'm not worried about it, but I just want to hear it from what's the saying, the horse's mouth or whatever it said, where we want to hear it from someone who's already in the field that it's really not a big deal, right? I think that's going to be the case. That's where my thought process are, but I would love to hear it from at least Lisa Su, who's playing a little bit in this space.
Okay, good point. I mean, I think if they do not provide us with guidance, I think the stock goes down heavily, right? If there is no guidance given, I think that things goes down closer to 100. But I also think, like I said, if they start low, if they do say like 7.5 billion, I don't think that will be good enough either. Even if at the end of the year it does end up closer to 10, at the start it will probably get hit because anticipation are quite high, right? We're already seeing a couple of analysts lower their expectations. I mean, some of them at 11, 12 billion dollars, and now it's at 8.4. So it is a bit lower, fine, but since you are starting from a low base of that $5 billion, should expect it to double. I mean, double is another five. Nvidia is adding what, $5 billion a quarter, not a year. So, of course, big difference. But I I wouldn't be surprised if it's 10. That means there is maybe extremely strong demand, especially thanks to inferencing. But I would also like to hear their comments with regards to what do they hear from their clients. Is there a shift going from training to inferencing already right now? Stronger shift, especially after that DeepSeek moment. What are they seeing? I think that will be extremely useful information.
Yeah, I agree, Neil. I think AMD's AI accelerator is going to drive the price action for this earnings, as AI is still the thing. I just I'm a very firm believer that for AMD, the bullish case is definitely that growth potential of AI accelerators, but just the turnaround story in AI PCs, in their client business, in the embedded market are going to play a more important role, especially in things like earnings per share beat and revenue beat in the short term of things. So I don't think the market is really looking at that. And I think that's a shame. So if somehow we see negative price action on AMD due to the AI accelerator, but we hear very bullish take on the client side, on the embedded side, I would see that as, hey, long-term bullish, maybe short-term price action is going to continue to get hit by this AI news.
Yeah, no, agreed, and that's why I have half a finger on that buy button before the earnings, because if it drops lower, then you will just get it at a cheaper price, and I don't really see how a business like AMD does not perform well in the future. We know gaming and embedded probably first half still some headwinds, second half the headwinds turn into to some tailwinds. So you got that playing as well. MI350, MI400 later 25, 26. Plus, did you see the blog post that they made last week? They released with regards to Rockham and some of the changes that they're making, the comparison to H100, H200s, not just inferencing but training as well. They did mention the semi-analysis conversation and code that they had. Actually, not bad performance. The comparisons were a bit strange, right? Because one had AMD uses a higher batch size than the H100, H200 in their testing, but some positive signs are coming from the software side of things for AMD, not just for inferencing, but also for training.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Neo, we heard from some analysis that he worked with the AMD software team to help improve and kind of gave him some pointers. So I'm happy that the AMD software team is improving in that with those with the points given. Now, I just for clarity reasons, Theo, I feel like sometimes my channel specifically, if I talk bullish about AMD, it means I'm talking bearish towards Nvidia. So just to confirm, I don't believe AMD is catching up anywhere to Nvidia's software mode, not at all. But they are improving their own solutions, which can overall increase some more sales in that market for them. We do have some questions here, just some reiterations. So float fiend, when will we know the results? So AMD around 4:15 Eastern time, we'll see the results. At 5 p.m., we're going to get the earnings call. Some other questions here. What else do we have? We have one from Cheyenne. Extremely concerned for semis regarding DeepSeek. I don't. I actually don't think there's much to worry about here, Neo, in the DeepSeek portion. I mean, the DeepSeek's. If you're thinking about it in a cost valuation, the more I learn about it, the more it kind of just really was more of like news really popping it out everywhere. The price that they showed, not only is it for a certain portion of a certain segment of the whole compute train. The second thing, it was only for V3. They didn't share the pricing on R1, and R1 is the reasoning model, which is now the new up-to-date style of AI and LLMs scaling law, right? So it I think I personally am not that worried about DeepSeek. When it came out, Neil, I was uncertain. I wasn't worried. I was uncertain. I was like, where? I don't even know if they're the same word. Are they pretty much the same word? Well, I wasn't completely freaking out. I was more curious of what can happen. What's next? And the more I learn about it, that curiosity has more in, okay, this is just the way the AI market is going to move. We're still going to need heavy computational power in all ends. So the AI train is pretty much what I would say still intact. I mean, we even had Palantir earnings yesterday, Neo. And while I don't really follow Palantir to the T, the one that thing on the top level over that I grabbed, Neo, was they're growing in their AIP platform, which kind of showcases that businesses are adopting AI. So if businesses are adopting AI, whatever kind of software solution Palantir is running, it's most likely run on the cloud or on premise. And if it's run on the cloud or on premise, it's most likely being powered by some form of AI GPU. So if you're seeing adoption there, I think you get to see evidence that we're still pretty strong in the AI space.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, that the DeepSeek moment was coming, right? It just got a lot of attention because it came from China. Because I am pretty certain that these types of models and results would have been made public by either OpenAI, um, XAI, Meta, all of them, and they would have gotten less attention because that's anyways the path that we're going towards, right? More compute, less expensive, more inference, everything will just be less and less expensive. It just got extreme attention because it came out of China and it makes for good headlines. So yeah, my conclusion with that was it's a panic, it's a buy the dip opportunity. It's just going to lead to, well, quicker AI solutions, applications, which would need eventually more chips. Because, well, if you just have more apps, more more stuff, you will need more chips eventually. Might not be as big or as how do you say this, performance-based chips that we thought we would need, but still, like I said, if you have 10 that pay you $10 or 1,000 that pay you $1, it's the same, just the scale is larger.
Yeah, and Neil, one thing I'm gonna start tracking from now on is H1. I think that something that if you are an Nvidia investor, just an AI investor, one thing that should be tracked is H100 pricing. And I think you can just go to like your maybe create just a quick Amazon AWS account and just try to see like maybe every week, see, or there might be even some websites that give you the trend of H100 pricing. And I was reading a semi analysis blog, Neo, and they mentioned ever since DeepSeek came out, the demand for H100 pricing has increased. Which is kind of showcasing, hey, you still need this high computational power if you're going to be running models more to maybe a bigger fan base. So it, I think looking, I don't know why I haven't been doing this in the past, but looking at things like H100 pricing and any other form of AI accelerator pricing and seeing if there's a nice uptick can kind of be a nice early indication of how the market is doing before you even hear about it anywhere else.
Yeah, and I think Right, this is another company that I think you will be following a bit closer with Nebius, since they offer Nvidia GPUs, H100, H200, and Blackwell. I think we will get also a lot of information from them from the demand side of things, whether it's training or inference. I think they will also give us a lot of input to work with. But yeah, like you said, I think that's smart to follow the pricing on these GPUs. I do want to show, I don't know if everybody can see this, but this is basically what the market is expecting. Oops. These numbers right here. So revenue, these are quarter-over-quarter growth rates, not year-over-year. So market is expecting $7.53 billion for the quarter, EBITDA coming in at $1.3 billion, EBIT just over $2 billion. And as you can see from a profitability standpoint, things are starting to grow quite quickly on a quarter-over-quarter basis. Plus for the fiscal year 2025, I mean, EPS on a GAAP basis grow 135%. That's pretty crazy. And then another 42.7% in fiscal 2026. Those are the current expectations. So yeah, a forward P of 26.6 times when you see these growth rates, it's definitely not the expensive stock.
Yeah, and the great thing about AMD is I want to say most of these expectations on earnings per share growth and all that is driven by, I want to say, more the client side than anything else. So that again, I'm bullish for AMD right now in the long term. I don't know how the market is going to react in the short term with this earnings. Like you mentioned, this is definitely going to be an earnings call, and just like every other earnings call, that's going to be driven by their AI guidance. No matter if the other segments could really be pushing up the earnings per share and the revenue, it's all about guidance from the AI market right now. Um, I like this question here, Neil, and I'm gonna definitely enjoy listening your thoughts here. Actually, first, from Mike. Mike mentioned that the difference in batch size from the MI300 and the H100 are due to HBM. Obviously, the HBM has less HBM, so the batch size will be lower for those models. So great point there. But the question I wanted to look at is from Michael, Neil. Is there anything in Google's earnings report besides increased capex spending that you think could be bullish for Nvidia? Neil, I'll give you some thoughts. I know you're not an Nvidia shareholder, so maybe you might have a different point of view. For me, Michael, one thing to remember is capex is not always all AI accelerator, and this has been something that I've been hearing lately, that maybe the growth rate of capex is not as high, or the numerical value is also not as high as previous. CapEx comes in both the physical, in forms of building the data center, so the land, the construction of the actual building itself, and then the other portion of CapEx goes into the compute and the AI accelerators. So it's crucial for investors to remember that if we ever see maybe a slowdown in CapEx, it doesn't necessarily, it's not correlated that you're also seeing a slowdown in AI compute. The market might anticipate it like that, and that's where I think buying opportunities may happen. But it's not, if you see capex go down, they might just be reducing the amount of money they spend on the land, on the construction of the data center, but they could still be increasing the amount of money that they spend on GPUs or AI accelerators. The second thing I would like to see, Neil, is if Google is actually gaining market share. And the reason I want to say that is Google has their own TPUs, Neil, right? They have their own, not AI accelerators, but pretty much kind of like their own accelerators that can be used for different workloads. If I see Google growing in market share, I think it's going to be mainly because they have better infrastructure capacity or a better infrastructure growth. And if that's the case, then I think it's going to force the other players to invest more in NVIDIA GPUs, because if they can't build their own chips, they have to find a way to buy more so they can keep up with this infrastructure build out that Google is doing thanks to their assets. So I want to see, are they gaining market share, and how are they seeing the demand of their cloud computing market? Are they, is now their infrastructure supply higher than demand, or is it still the other way around where demand is still outpacing supply? So those are, I wouldn't say, the three things I'll be looking at. Neil, any thoughts on your end?
No, I think you summed it up very, very good. People forget that Google does a lot of things in-house, much, much better than the rest, much better than the rest. So I still expect cloud revenue for Google to continue to grow rapidly, faster than the others. Makes sense because, I mean, also a lower base compared to AWS and Azure. But yeah, I think I saw a post this weekend, no, that they are going to be one of the first one to offer Blackwell. I believe so. I think I saw a post of Sundar on X saying that. So despite them doing a lot of things in-house, they still want Nvidia products to be offered. So no, I don't think, and like you said, I think if there is like a little crisis with regards to capex, like we've seen last week, right, with Microsoft, again, I don't think it's such a reason to panic. Let's say. I
Yeah,
think with
Neil,
Google, yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna say I failed right now. I haven't really listened to the Microsoft or I've listened to Meta's earnings call. I still have yet to listen to Microsoft's call, and I think I should definitely. I think that's what I might do tonight. Actually, no. I don't know if you noticed, Neil. Lex Freeman, um, famous podcaster, just did a podcast with Dylan Patel, um, the semi-analysis lead,
Hmm.
and some other AI scientists. It's about 5 hours long, so I'm still watching it. It's taking me some time, but I'm gonna listen to that first before I move on to any more earnings that I might have missed.
5 hours. That's nuts. Even in 1.5x, that's way too long. That's crazy.
I don't think I'm in hour. I don't think I finished hour one yet, but definitely a lot of great. I think if you're really want to learn about the AI market, they do a really good well of explaining kind of like the different types of training. Oh, am I down? Testing, chat.
No, we're back.
All right. If it's 5 hours long, but I would say if you want to learn about the AI space, definitely check it out. If you have maybe like a 30-minute commute, it might take you a few days to listen to it, but it gives you the ability to grasp the information. So, um, if you want to learn more about DeepSeek, about the AI space, definitely check out that Lex Freeman podcast, and just be prepared to feel pretty dumb because these guys are super smart, especially the AI researcher that they are discussing are talking to.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I want to answer this question really quick. Do you feel that Google might have slightly better results for cloud than expected after seeing a little weakness from Microsoft? Now, I do want to repeat what I said last week with Microsoft. Microsoft is growing 31% year over year on a much higher base. It's still 31% growth, which is crazy, and that's been called weakness. So yeah, I still expect Google Cloud to grow faster because the dollar amount is lower. But yeah, the Microsoft thing is in my opinion just didn't make much sense. It's like, oh, we're not going to increase capex as fast as previously expected, and that's bearish already. But previously we wanted them to maybe spend less because of DeepSeek and all of that. But at the same time, they're also managing to grow a huge business by 31% year over year, which is nuts. But in some cases, you can't win. But could provide opportunities for those that are Microsoft holders because still one of the best companies on the planet.
Definitely, Neil. I'm going to take a closer look at some questions. Well, first, just Matthew. Lex is a great interviewer in general, though, one of the best. We also have here from Goris. It's a pity they missed Google at 170. I set a small order at 193 after hours. Neil, I would say the more I research Google and the more I learn about their overall AI infrastructure play, I wouldn't be surprised that within the next 5 to 10 years, that market share between how right now Microsoft and Amazon are the big leaders in cloud market share, right, Neil? I think that is gonna get even closer and closer for Google. I think those three are gonna have very equal market share in the future. And I think that's very, very bullish overall for Google because it's definitely one of the cheaper plays in that market. So Google is one that now if we see any weakness in the market, I think Google is going to be one of my top plays to add into.
Yeah, plus, I mean, when you buy Google, you get YouTube, you get still advertising, you get a call option on, well, way more autonomy, which, I mean, if you believe in that, I think that's going to be quite huge. So yeah, I mean, a wonderful business to own, and I'm very happy, very happy to have gone against all the negative headlines around Google in the last couple of years.
I agree, Neil. And MRC whales are starting to load up for Uber now. I mean, you got two whales here that loaded up on Uber a few weeks ago. Neil, no, but
Exactly.
what's Uber's price action looking like right now, Neil?
I think
Um,
it's 69, which makes it even better.
when is earnings for them? Are did they
Tomorrow,
or the tomorrow? Oh
tomorrow
wow, nice.
morning. Yeah.
Oh, tomorrow we actually have some pretty cool ones too. We have Google. I mean, we have Uber, we have Qualcomm, we have ARM. So in the semiconductor space, you definitely, I think ARM just gets a lot of news. Qualcomm is boring, I feel, for most players, but it's one I personally like to listen to. Um, but yeah, it's fun to be back in earnings season. And then we have Amazon on Thursday after the market closes.
Yeah, pretty big one. I like that Uber is tomorrow morning, so we have more time to look at Qualcomm and ARM in the evening. Plus, it gives us also some time to maybe enjoy some Uber gains before the market closes.
Let's see. Do we have any other questions? If we might have missed any questions in the beginning, feel free to repost them. But let's see. I haven't even read the question. I'm just gonna read it while we're doing this. Even though AMD has better forward PE than Nvidia, the latter is better poised for the long run on software. Nvidia investing in AI companies left and right. I I want to say, Leroy, I agree. I think if you're investing for a full-on AI thesis, if you're the only thesis you're looking for is AI improvements, I think Nvidia is the way to go. I think if you're looking for a way to invest in AI, but other industries as well, where it's not fully dependent in AI, AMD is that way to go, right? So maybe one is more growth orientated and the other one can still be growth, but it's balanced with maybe some what I would call hedges, which would be those different markets as well. But yeah, those are my thoughts. Neil, any thoughts there?
No, I agree. I agree. With buying Nvidia, you basically get let's call it investing in the AI infrastructure level from a hardware and software perspective. With AMD, you're looking at a small gap and maybe bigger upside just from a market cap's perspective. But you also have more unanswered questions in the short run. Both excellent companies, but yeah, I mean, if you have Nvidia, I see no reason why you should ditch it or
Uh,
not add on the dip. I think it is dipping the last couple of days. No,
yeah.
yeah, 118.
Um, Neil, this question might be for you. Alex Fit, what do you think about PayPal? Um, Oh, I think you mentioned it, but maybe give us a quick overview before the end of the stream ends and we all go to your channel to watch your full earnings review of PayPal. Some high level takes here on PayPal earnings.
Yeah, so I'll show you the damage. The damage has been done. Well, it's now down 11% today. So basically, it was a solid quarter. Guidance was not as good as expected, even though it also beats closely across the board. Earnings call, I mean, there are sometimes these earnings calls where whether you have them or not, it wouldn't have changed anything. And that was exactly what happened. Nothing was really mentioned during the earnings call. And I also blame the analysts because they completely forgot to ask interesting questions with regard to advertising, stablecoin, etc. But on the flip side, we have an investor day 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now. So maybe that's why they didn't want to reveal too much. But all in all, it's down basically because, well, it wasn't that exciting. The business is still doing very well, in my opinion. The turnaround is happening. It's just right now it wasn't such an exciting report. You can see watch the video on my channel after this stream. I go over all the numbers and comments from the earnings call. But yeah, still holding, not selling a share here.
Yeah, Neil, and I'm gonna just say, Mitch, we're gonna see. I see you send a super chat to Neil. I'm gonna share that in a bit, but just Neil, one thing I saw in the earnings for just a quick,
To
I,
me?
yeah, I
I thought
think it
it
was
was
to
to
you, right?
you.
I
Thank you
don't
very
know.
much. Thank you very much.
uh,
It helps me with my PayPal pain.
One thing I saw with PayPal is they meant, I don't know if they mentioned during the earnings call. I just read it in it that it did, but I didn't listen to the call that they're having some guidance was kind of weaker than expected because they're having some renegotiation factors with their whole Braintree new pricing or anything like that. Um, as an investor, would you be worried of how those renegotiations happen? What if they take longer than expected? What if those renegotiations go to end up leading customers to other players? I think maybe that's what investors were kind of on the top level view were worried about of what's going to happen with these renegotiation tactics, and is it going to be negative for the stock in the future?
No, so I touched on that in that video, but no, the renegotiations were expected because they did mention that last quarter in the earnings call that Braintree is going to grow revenue wise slower, but it's going to help with margin. So I wasn't really shocked by that. With regards to fears of renegotiation not going well, based on management commentary, I I trust them. I trust them. They gave me no reason not to trust them since they came in. They've done a pretty good job. So sometimes, yes, sometimes these things do take longer, but they did say it's going to hit them for 2025. So they've got a long time um, for them to be able to reaccelerate that. I probably expect a reacceleration towards the end of the year when it comes to Braintree. But Venmo is doing well, growing, and now monetization is starting to kick in as well. So overall, 11% down, 11% is, in my opinion, quite an overreaction on an already quite undervalued stock. And by the way, Mitch, thank you. I completely, I don't know why I thought it was for your channel. It looked like it was not my mine, but I'll take it. I'll take it. Thank you very much.
So Mitch, I mean, not Mitch, Neil, what do you think about the question? Do you guys think AMD will go up after earnings tonight? If so, how much in your opinion? Take out that crystal ball of yours, Neil. I want to know, what are your thoughts? Obviously,
So
these
if
are
I look
guesses, and we're gonna.
inside,
I want to play the guessing game, even though we're gonna be wrong. And remember, guys, these are guesses. Most of us. I don't think Neil owns Neil mentioned he doesn't own AMD, but I would love to hear and see what he thinks the stock will go into.
I mean, I might own AMD. I don't know if I want to click that button, but yeah, it's a tricky one because it is one that will move just based on what management will tell us in the earnings call. It's not like one that will move just based on, oh, it's an earnings beat, which I do believe that's going to happen, an earnings beat for the quarter. That's not really going to be the issue here. It's going to be guidance and commentary. I don't know what the implied volatility is, but if someone in the chat can check on that, that could already help us a little bit. I would love for it to go up so most of you can make some money in the short run, because my family's portfolio has quite a lot of AMD, so that's good for them. But yeah, I don't know. I can't tell you because it can go both ways.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like we talked, I think, Mitch, we talked about it at the beginning of this episode. It's all going to be dependent on that AI accelerator space, right? Guidance. I think that's where it's going to really move the stock price. We did get indications from Intel's earnings that the CPU market is strong this quarter. It's not going to translate necessarily good for the upcoming quarters, but at least for this past quarter, we expect PCs to do well as well, their client market. But no matter what happens, I think the market is just worried about AI accelerators. So depending on guidance, somewhere between hopefully $8 to $10 billion is around the range. I think we talked about, Neil, that it could be, I think we might be expecting somewhere around that range of where they might give. So I think it all depends on that space. Um, Neil, you also have another super chat. It seems you're popular. You got a lot of rich people over there. Grab doing well today. Hidden gem. Do you follow Grab, Neil? Any thoughts there?
I do follow Grab, Jab. Yeah, I do. And thank you, by the way, David. Newcastle, I'm sorry you lost some points this weekend, but as a Chelsea fan, I'm quite happy to see you below us right now. Um, Grab doing well today, yeah, on the rumors that they might merge with another company in Southeast Asia, which would make them quite a huge competitor to Sea Limited. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but those are the rumors right now. I'm covering Grab. I think it's right. I think it's back above $5 right now. Yeah, up 12% today based on that. I'm not surprised. It's a very good company with a lot of growth potential. I do not own it yet. Again, I cannot own. I went with Micron and Uber, so can't own everything. Plus, Uber does still own I think 14% of Grab, I believe. So actually, Jose, you're also a shareholder of
I
Grab
guess I should be
indirectly.
paying more attention to Grab then. um, Neil, we actually got some updates to an implied move. Shayan says 10% expected move, but then we also have Joseph about 8.2% move. So it seems like at least we're getting close to the high single digit percentage move expected for AMD after earnings. I don't know. I'm gonna say the stock. I think this is gonna. It's always the opposite of what I think. I think the stock has been beat up enough the past few weeks that I would expect the move to be more on the positive reaction. Um, but watch me eat my words on Thursday when we do a live stream again. Um, let's see. I had a question here, Neil, that I really do enjoy. So Fitz mentioned, do you see a risk to Nvidia getting re-rated due to the diffusion rule being upheld or strengthened, thus hitting their second largest revenue source in Singapore? Now, this is something that has come up a lot, Neil, and it's like seen as a big bearish flag for Nvidia. The reason, and it's important to understand the supply chain for NVIDIA. It is very unlikely, Neil, for NVIDIA to sell chips to an individual company. They usually kind of do it with like the big hyperscaler players because the big hyperscaler players can build their own AI infrastructure. What ends up happening is the real customers of NVIDIA are like the Dells, the Supermicros, those players, and all the Taiwanese and Singapore kind of server makers that buy the GPUs, make the servers, and then those servers get shipped out to other parts in the world. So usually most of those server companies that build those servers are because of cost are somewhere in Southeast Asia or somewhere in Asia just because it's better cost performance for them. So that doesn't mean even though 20 something percent of their revenue is coming from Singapore, it doesn't mean the servers stay in Singapore. They just get made in Singapore and then they get shipped out to either parts here in the United States, all over the world. So it's just I see this as a take that gets pushed around Twitter a lot of why this is the biggest bearish case. But I want to say if you see something like that, it most likely means that person doesn't understand NVIDIA at all. And you should definitely stop following them about any NVIDIA news. Hopefully, Neil, you didn't say anything about that.
No. But I did pull up this tweet right here where you can see that the revenue coming from Singapore did accelerate and grow quite quickly. I mean, last quarter that was up 185% year over year. That's more than half of its U.S. revenue. I mean, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised because I think we both know that a lot of the products of Nvidia go to Singapore and then they go to probably mainland China, and that's how some of them get their hands on restricted products. But
But it's like the same case. It's like this big bullish bearish case for like Qualcomm, Neil, about China being like 40 something percent of their overall revenue. It doesn't mean that China is the biggest customer there. It's just like wherever you're making phones. So if you made your phones, most of them are being made in China or some parts of Asia. So that's where Qualcomm sends their chips, but that's not where the chips end up being sold, right? You still have you have to follow down the stream the line. So Verizon or whoever or Apple are creating the phones in China or wherever, but that's not, you don't see China's all market really dependent on that, on that space, right? It definitely is dependent, but that's how you should see the AI space and here for Nvidia. Just because they're being sent to Singapore, it doesn't mean that Singapore is the player or that they're being sent to China. It's then they get built out there and then they get shipped out to your Canada's, your United States, your Microsoft data center in Brazil, and all these other places. So um, that's why that Singapore revenue is not as bearish as many discuss.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think many talk about the Singapore one because of that China risk, let's call it, that we know that it's getting into China even though they're not allowed to get it. So that's why it became such a big issue. But I mean, I don't really see the big issue of the Singapore issue. I see the issue that H200s are getting into China. Okay, fine. But the Singapore one, I don't see. I don't see the issue.
Yeah, I agree, Neil. Sambister, do you expect Nvidia to be cyclical at a certain point? Yeah, I think the semiconductor market, no matter where we are, is always going to be cyclical. So, I think every investor in the semiconductor space is also always trying to figure out where we are in that cycle. Some cycles might last longer than others. Some cycles might last shorter than others. So, at the end of the game, I think Nvidia is going to follow that cycle eventually.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed. I want to just touch on this. No, not a semi stock or anything. Novo Nordisk from Europe, the also GLP-1 big player. I think they report earnings on Thursday, so we'll wait and see what they report. A tremendous company, very, very profitable and growing. So we'll see what happens with that on Thursday. We have
Let's
still no news. Did you hear anything about a potential CEO for Intel? I don't think so.
No, Neil, did you listen? I didn't listen to the earnings call either. Again, I've been slacking this past week. I made it back from Florida to New Jersey, so this past week I've just been off. They didn't mention anything during the earnings call, Neil.
They said things are ongoing, blah blah blah, the usual stuff. But they said don't ask us any question about that because we're not going to give you any answers because there's nothing to give. So I guess they're keeping things quite secret, but we'll see.
Neil, if you could take a question, I just need to text my wife real quick. My little one crying, so if she can go get him. So if you can take another question real quick.
No problem. Let's see what we have here. Maybe you could make an online call during. Uh, I I don't think we will have time for another live today. We will be live back on Thursday, but I'm sure both of us will have videos with a summary up tonight about AMD. I'll probably have AMD and Google, but for a live, I think we'll only do one on Thursday. We're gonna have to talk about AMD, Qualcomm, ARM. By then, we'll have way more information, so it's going to be quite interesting.
Yeah, but regardless, Neil, I think both of us will probably have a video up tonight. So, I mean, if you want to hear our thoughts on it, definitely check both of our channels for AMD thoughts after.
Exactly. And apparently, Novo is Wednesday, not Thursday. Okay, then I think I've seen the wrong picture. But okay, then there is Novo tomorrow as well. Quite a busy day. Quite a busy day. For everyone asking about PayPal, there is a video on the channel that you can go watch, and all of your questions will be answered. But that might not be a good enough reason for the stock to go up, unfortunately.
So, Leo, just stop. Let me move you before those people that are asking for PayPal go to it. Are you any bearish? Like, was there any thesis breaking moment from PayPal earnings? Do you think this price action is an overreaction to the stock right now?
I didn't see any thesis breaking things in that report. It's true that it was not as exciting. The call was definitely not exciting at all. But again, there is an investor day later this month, so that should be more exciting. And after that, will I make up my mind if something really changes? But right now, no thesis changing or thesis breaking stuff just because the stock is down.
We have a question here, Jose. Do you think Qualcomm will show strong skew to quarter four? Um, I don't. Not. I think we've heard from the phone business, Neil, that the phone market is still not, and we've even heard it from Micron that the phone business is still not as strong as many have expected. So I would expect Qualcomm to kind of give us the same results for this quarter. Now it's going to be crucial for Qualcomm, and again, Qualcomm is not just a phone business anymore, but that's where a good portion of its revenue is coming from. I think what's going to be most important from Qualcomm is guidance. And that's at the end of the day, unfortunately, what's going to happen with everybody is guidance of how they see the mobile market growing. I think it's definitely going to be going in the right direction. There's definitely a lot of long-term tailwinds for Qualcomm. I just don't know if we're going to see it this quarter or next quarter.
Yeah, I agree. I think last quarter automotive did extremely well for them. Now we can actually hear a bit more about how things are going with their PC products. So it's going to be quite interesting. I think Qualcomm is well positioned for the future, especially in the future with AR, VR, mixed reality headsets, and all of that. You're going to have quite a lot of Qualcomm chips in those.
Yeah, I agree, Neil. I think for this one, Internet of Things is one of those markets that's going to be a huge opportunity for Qualcomm. Being able to run devices or AIs locally is going to be crucial. I think that's where Qualcomm can really be a winner. As they already provide a lot of solutions for smartwatches, like Neil mentioned, for AR glasses, for the VR glasses. So they already have that market. Now, Neil, I think it's just when is the adoption phase of that in the consumer goods, right? We see Meta really pushing it, but even with Meta pushing it, it's not a huge adopting it's not being adopted as quickly by the consumer space. But when that happens, I think Internet of Things is going to be a huge driver for Qualcomm. Unfortunately, I hear very similar to um, uh, Joseph says Qualcomm PC products are slowly seeming to gain market share in some areas. I sometimes hear the opposite, Joseph, where it might not be doing as good as some expect. Um, but it's starting from nothing. So from starting from nothing, it definitely has kind of some growth opportunities from there.
Yeah, because I mean the ARM-based ecosystem compared to x86 is not as developed as of yet. So that's pushing some people away from Qualcomm PCs. Might change in the future, of course, but right now, yeah, I'm also hearing actually the opposite.
Um, Neil, here we have one from Tom. Again, I don't follow the fintech market, but it definitely seems like today's episode is getting a lot of fin excitement. Um, any thoughts on SoFi and why it's dipping right now?
Yeah, no, I mean it's down 0.65%. I wouldn't really call this cause for concern. I've seen way worse for SoFi on random days. So why is it dipping? I mean, Block is also down 3.5%, and I don't think they reported today. Maybe it's because of PayPal. I don't know. But then again, the others here are quite green. Adian is green because probably Braintree's weakness is Adian's win. But other than that, I mean, SoFi is basically flat today. So no real cause for concerns. Still very bullish on SoFi.
Yep. This is a pretty interesting question. It comes from a newbie here in the stock market. So, Driver, if Nvidia is so far ahead of AMT, why are the stock prices similar? So, Driver, definitely welcome to the investing world. This is stock prices don't relate to the value of the company. What you're really going to look at is the market cap. Nvidia is worth about $3 trillion right now. I don't know if it's back to the $3 trillion mark, but it's around there. Where AMD, I think it's in the 200 or $300 billion mark. So it's about
A
10
bit less.
less. It's less than 200 billion right now,
I
Neil.
think it's
So
190 or 90 something. Yeah.
yeah, so in forms of actual value, Driver, AMD is more than 11 times smaller than Nvidia. So the stock price just gives you the price of that share, but it doesn't give you the price of the actual company. If you want to understand the difference between value, you're going to look for something called the market cap.
Exactly. Actually, it's a common, let's say, beginner's mistake. I've seen that a lot. Like, oh, this company's share is at $100 and this one is at 150. How does that make sense? Like, market cap wise, they're not quite the same.
Yeah. Yeah, and I keep missing this question from Greg Neil. I want to hear your thoughts. What are your rules do you play by for using margin? Do you use margins, Neil? Is that your rule? Just don't use margins?
No, never.
Yeah.
I never used it.
The only time I would ever use like a margin play, Neil, is or anything related to it is if I sell a call or sell a put in the options game, but they're usually backed by something. So if I sell a call, I usually tend to have those shares that I would lose if the call gets exercised, right? And similar with options, if I sell a put, I would have that cash ready if I get exercised that put. So I don't really play with margins. And if I do kind of do like naked calls or naked options, they're not really naked as I have either the asset to cover it behind. And it's always very limited to how I do it. But pretty much, yeah, no margins. You would never, and even 3x share ETFs, I usually stay away from things like that as well, which I know sometimes people try to use it instead of just going margins, but at the end of the day, it's pretty much similar results.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. Just want to touch back on this thing because I've seen this a lot. PayPal is not innovating fast enough. That has been true in the past. That is very true. If this X payment processing turns to reality, I don't see how PayPal grows from here. I don't know about you, but I don't plan on making any payments on X. I don't know what payments are we going to make on X. I'm not going to send $10 to anonymous 35652 troll. I don't know. I just don't see that happening.
And Neil, it seems like we got just a lot of similar thoughts. Daniel, margin is death. Dave, never use margins. Quickly kill your portfolio. Joseph, no margins in my role. I say margins right now, Neil, get a lot of excitement because people start to do a lot of like naked puts and naked calls. And during markets like we're in right now, you get luckier a lot more often. And what I end up seeing in like previous cycles, right, Neil, is you tend to be right a nice amount of times. But then one of these days, you're going to do a margin call where you're like, you know what? I'm going to do 10x my rule or something like that. And that's the day you're wrong. And you're going to burn all the gains that you kind of made. So margins are cool. You're right until you're not right. And when you're not right, it's going to hurt you a lot.
Yeah, especially if you use those 3x things as well, right? You can be right for a long period of time, and then imagine if you have that on that DeepSeek Monday or on that Tariff Monday. You're liquidated like that, like ASAP, and you're done. So yeah, it works well when things go up, but then it only takes one really, really bad day for you to get completely screwed over.
And we saw it in 2020 and 2021, right? It was buying the dip moments that it was good to buy any dips. But then one day that dip just kept dipping and dipping and dipping and dipping. So I think right now, we're in that kind of that buy the dip phase where almost all dips get bought, but eventually that's not going to be a thing, Neil.
Exactly. I see it a couple of times in the chat. You're in the US. Do you know Elf?
I just know they are. I always joke around. They're like the AI beauty care. They're a makeup store. I don't really follow it, but I know last year the stock did. Let me see the 5-year chart real quick, Neil. It was like super amazing until it wasn't amazing. So
Yeah,
I
that's a
not a
double
market I
top. Yeah.
follow. I don't wear makeup, so I wouldn't know much about this
Ah, you don't
space.
wear makeup?
No, I hate to break it to you, Neil.
Yeah, I think they also report earnings this week. it's been down. I mean, in the last 6 months, 50%. A lot of people are interested in this one for some reason, probably because of the performance. But there are probably a lot of fears about the China tariffs, even though I think last earnings call management did talk a little bit about that and they weren't that concerned. So we'll see. It's still growing much faster than the competition. So maybe this is a buy the dip opportunity, or you're catching falling knives. I think that's what's been happening anyways in the last 6 months. But one good earnings call can change that.
All right, Neil, I'm done in about a minute or two. I'm just trying to see if there's any questions in the chat that I can take real quick. Neil, pull up the Roblox chart. Damn, Neil, don't break to them so quickly. Make them say please. And Daniel, 3 years into the bull market, I wouldn't be loading up on margin leverage. Very true, Brian. Same thought process. Yeah, Neil, I don't think I have much. Oh, here we go. What do we expect with ARM earnings Thursday? This is a stock, Neil, that I don't understand how it just keeps going up. I personally believe ARM is. I see the growth opportunity. I understand the growth opportunity, but I think eventually this is a story in the semiconductor space that I think will end pretty bad.
I mean, yeah, we've talked about that before. This thing just keeps going up and up and up, and we don't really see that huge increase quarter over quarter. But who knows? Maybe with that Stargate projects, maybe they suddenly are going to get a huge order. I'll have to see to believe it first, because this stock keeps getting more and more expensive. Then again, we've seen other stocks that are extremely expensive and can continue to go up. So we'll see. The beauty of the earnings season is that you get questions answered quite quickly. So we'll see. We'll cover that definitely on Thursday.
Yeah, definitely, Neil. And I think that's it for me. So first, I just want to say thank you to both channels for the chat. I love doing these live streams as we get these questions. So yeah, we'll see you again Thursday, right, Neil? Anything you want to finish off before we close out the stream and make that awkward exit end stream portion?
No, thank you everyone for joining. It's going to be an exciting earnings evening today, tomorrow, the day after that. We really appreciate you joining. Apologies for the delays of the answers for the super chat and the other chats as well. I think I still have a small lag for the chat, but we'll keep a better eye on that in the future. But yeah, all in all, very excited for the Advanced Money Destroyer earnings report.
All right, Neil. And thank you to that, and see you all next time.